Hello, everybody, and welcome to another new episode of our AI Readiness for Salesforce podcast. Today, with a very special guest, Francis. Thank you, Francis, for being with us. Do you want to introduce yourself? Not that nobody doesn't know you, but
I'm sure there's people out there that don't know me. Thanks for having me on the podcast. Yeah, I'm Francis Pindar, and I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for about 18 years now. I've trained over 170,000 people in 160 countries in Salesforce. I've been an architect. Well, I've been an architect for many years. Worked for big consultancies as well as end users. And run a consultancy now myself, as well as my training company, admin2architect.com. And yeah, I'm kind of now in the world of AI and seeing what that has, how that works, and trying and testing and seeing where we can maximize our, investment in this agent world.
Oh, well, we're definitely going to go into that. But before that, I want to unpack a couple of things that you mentioned. Well, first is, and just to make sure that you didn't actually pull a number just out of thin air, but you mentioned 170,000 people trained with courses, right?
Yeah, 170,000, which is just mind-boggling, and 160 countries as well, which is just talking to those students in these vast different countries. It is amazing the impact that Salesforce has had across the globe, which is quite amazing. As well as London's Calling, the event we do in London, UK.
That side job of yours of organizing the largest community event in the world for Salesforce ecosystem.
It's bonkers, and it's only 6-7 weeks away, something like that, maybe 2 months, something like that. Yeah, June the 6th.
It's just around the corner. Exactly. So let's actually start with that. So this year, London's Calling is going to be, I guess, wild guess here, is going to be about AI, agentic AI, Agentforce, right? So today, the podcast and the whole theme is about AI readiness. So what's the readiness level of the ecosystem, and how will they walk into London's Calling to get more ready, if that's a word, readier for Agentforce?
I think it's all about being AI ready, right? And it's not about having the latest tools. I think it's more about having the right mindset, data, and governance, so you can kind of turn those agents into kind of value for your organization and into results. And I think it's almost like pulling back a little bit. We've kind of dived into the technology of AI and Agentforce, but now it's kind of about, right, let's pull back and see where we're going to get the value from it. What are those use cases, and what do we need to ground that AI in to actually prove it in an organization, and take tiny steps to get there, right? Try it, test it, move on, and do that until you kind of got good ROI from it, because you're going to pick 5 options. One of them will be good, 4 of them won't, maybe, and you need to find those scenarios that are going to work for you.
So I actually took a note as you were saying it. Mindset, data, and governance, the 3 key areas to have and achieve, I guess, AI readiness. Can you help unpack it? It starts with mindset, right? So that has to do with what? Culture, you think? It's leadership, it's mindset in the people?
Yeah, I think it's got to start from the top, right? C-level, kind of being able to kind of take that jump into trying an AI experiment and seeing if it works, right? But also having that mindset shift on, it's not a functional project. It's not, my classic example is somebody had built Agentforce, and if you looked at it, it looked like a chatbot. It was giving no value out. It was giving, it wasn't what I would expect an agent to do, right? And so I think it is that kind of mindset shift of going, you're not kind of programmatically really deciding how this thing is going to work. You're giving it the actions that you, and the controls and that trust guardrails on how it's going to work, and then really focus down on the customer and seeing how they're going to interact with that. But that's all grounded on your data. Yeah. And so the mindset shift is kind of, don't look at it as a technical solution, shift up to kind of think about how this is going to add value and how people are going to interact with it to get those best results. And then the thinking around data is, you're going to ground this on data, and it may be in Salesforce, it may be outside, it may be an agent to agent integration to get that data. But you need at some point to ground it on data. And initially, that isn't going to be everything. You're going to need to target it on a use case that you can test to see if it's going to add value. So with that mindset shift, focusing small, and then finding the data that backs up that particular use case you've identified, and then putting the governance around that to decide, is it successful? Has it failed? Let's move on. So that you can kind of turn that kind of the technology implementation into results, and you're designing the majority of the time, right? And not implementing.
That makes sense. And I want to actually come back to the chatbot example, because I think we obviously you explain the mindset and you explain the grounding in the data as an important component of AI success or AI readiness in our case. Now, I want to unpack data as in, because we often hear about, you need to have your data. Now, what's the chatbot example? What's data, and what type of data, level of depth, horizontal, vertical depth, completeness, contextualization. What is that data that will make an agent ready and therefore successful?
Because I kind of think of it, as the depth of the data you want, but also the breadth of it, but also thinking around, well, actually, you've got structured data, you have unstructured data, and you've got the models data as well that is kind of underpinning everything, and how you can leverage each of those to ground that agent and those prompts in the best data to solve that specific use case, rather than going, hey, we've got everything, let's chuck it all in. It's kind of, I think of it as finding that kind of narrow data source across structured, unstructured, and the model data, and how the prompts and the AI can leverage each of them to solve that use case or use cases you want to test to see if you get the ROI, and then get it back. But I think there's been quite a focus on like the structured data, which is fair enough. But for me, I think where the value comes is, you've got the key structured data within your Salesforce org, but the value, I think, comes with all the data in the LLM, right? How can you harness that information to provide it back based on the customer personas or your user personas that are accessing the agent to give a much richer experience, right? And that could be, the LLM's data, or it could be your own corporate data, all the process documentation or whatever it may be that you're doing in that particular use case, without, chucking it all in. But I think people miss, and they focus on the data within the org. Then the next one is they're focusing on, the knowledge base articles or the unstructured internal data, but then they kind of miss out all the value you're getting from the LLM, and the data you could potentially use or ask to surface back to give a much more valuable, rich response than you would necessarily with just your customer data and your unstructured data within your organization. Very,
very interesting. Now I'm going to challenge you to give me a practical example of everything that you said, right? So we talked about a chatbot. What's a practical application that you've seen of a chatbot that actually leverages the internal org data or structured knowledge based data or external LLM based knowledge that is pre-built and existing in the model, and then use that to answer questions, I guess, or to
I think
drive the conversation.
I think a really good example would be one company where they'd built their agent, and it is around real estate or estate agencies. And they basically developed it as if it was a chatbot rather than an agent. So it would ask the typical things: where do you want your house? Buy a house. How many, bedrooms do you want it? Blah, blah, blah. And it was kind of going thinking of everything very functionally and data driven, as you would kind of in a Salesforce org.
Database.
Fields. Database. This is how I'm going to search through data and respond. And here are the 4 houses we have that match your requirements.
Exactly. Right? So that's the old way.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like, and they built it in Agentforce like this, and I was like, where's the rich data, the information that I want to get back, and also what's the problem you're trying to solve? And in the estate agent world, basically, majority of people think they know what they want when they buy a house, but actually don't, right? So. And they might just fall in love with the river outside, and actually all the requirements of the house has got nothing to do with what their original requirements were, right? And actually, as an estate agent, what you really want to find out is, their current circumstances. They're, are single, are they, looking to build a nest, have they got a family, and based on that information, you're kind of pulling out what persona do they kind of fit into, and then what is the value we can give back to them to help them trust us more, that they want to reach out to us and use us as an agent. So, for example, if I'm asking them, are you looking for a family home in this area? I could say, well, actually, if you look 200 yards down the road or a mile down the road, you're actually in the catchment area of 3 top schools. Now, all that information is potentially in the LLM or is in the LLM, right? So you can bring that information back to them and go, we've got some great houses, a mile down the road. It isn't in your specific area, but it is next to these 3 great schools. We've got this here, that here, blah, 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 blah. And then ask some questions around their personal kind of experience, what they want to get out of the house and their current circumstances to better inform, local information and that can really go, wow, this is really cool. Oh, actually, I never even thought about the local schools. Oh, yeah, we're thinking of having a family. Oh, yeah, primary schools suddenly jump to the top of the list. It's not the number of bedrooms, right? And being able to inform people with that. And that's where I think it's a killer, right? Between different, if you get that experience compared with somebody who hasn't got that, who are you going to reach out to? It's going to be that estate agent, right?
I like the way you positioned it, which is the ultimate goal, right? So going beyond just helping you in the immediacy of, this is my listing, or, these are the listings that are matching whatever criteria you enter, but really thinking about a very smart estate agent that has the ultimate goal of creating trust.
Yeah.
And, in sales, you would call that a good discovery call, right?
Yeah.
Where you're doing a lot of listening and you're allowing the conversation to go off in directions that really follow the pain point or the ultimate goal, rather than whatever a client that is talking to you, and I experience that every day, they think they want, like you said, right? So sometimes they come in and they have a list of features that they want to double check that you actually meet. And that would be, applying in real estate, 5 bedrooms and, 2 doors opening on the backyard, and whatever that is, that would be a mansion, actually, that I just mentioned that.
But then that drives the whole AI, right? So if you've got that unstructured data, so for example, that unstructured data of the call, right? Of, they're this type of person, blah, 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 blah. That drives the whole experience there going forwards. Yeah, maybe the emails are slightly tailored then to that. Or, the documents I create are tailored to, their circumstances, rather than just giving them here's the property profile, right? That doesn't mention schools. It kind of cascades all the way through to get,
And I would imagine that if you broaden that, again, following the same example, there might be news in the area that are relevant. Hey, there's a new road closure, or they will rebuild the park, and they're updating the playground down the park on the other side of the street, and all of a sudden it's relevant information that would have nothing to do, but an agent will be able to, if instructed in the right way.
Exactly. Use that information in the same way that if I'm a single person buying a property, then it's going to go, hey, look, do you know there's a Michelin star restaurant just down the road from this property? Oh, yeah, cool.
So coming back to the kind of AI readiness, so how ready are clients to have this type of conversation, to trust an agent, to have this type of conversations with their customers, and how ready is Salesforce to cater with Agentforce to these type of scenarios?
I think it's definitely built on the trust of the information you get out of it, right? Especially when you're looking at AI adoption and how you use it. And so this is where I kind of think that you're starting small on a specific use case, right? Where you've got people in a specific department that already get AI or already get the value of it, before you go to the people that are a little bit more hesitant and don't want to be involved with it. And that you kind of slowly do that kind of incremental progress on it. And I kind of say AI rather than Agentforce, because I think it does need to be a kind of looking at your AI strategy as a whole and where it adds value, rather than looking at the technical enablers for it and if Salesforce is or isn't ready. I think there is a big challenge in the Salesforce ecosystem, for me, is around the shift from kind of user-based licensing to consumption-based licensing, which I don't think Salesforce has really explained brilliantly well. And I think this has had a negative impact on Agentforce. For me, I think it's great, because the more you can prove the ROI based on how you're consuming it, you can then know what the scaling up is going to cost you. And you're going more traditional IT of AWS, which is all consumption based, right? But I think a lot of people in the Salesforce ecosystem don't know how to architect or build solutions using this consumption-based model, right? But I think, I've heard, there's safe harbor, there's AI calculators or Salesforce is creating calculators for working out all these credits based on the volume of data and the transformations, everything within Data Cloud that you need. So you can kind of more accurately work out your ROI. But this is where I think, incremental progress is so important, right? And really looking at it holistically across the organization and seeing where you can add value. And that may not even be Agentforce. It could be another AI tool that you're using to get the trust of AI into the organization. And then, to be honest, the users won't know the difference between if it's Agentforce or if it's some other tool, right? If it's getting the results they need, then awesome. Yeah, and they can get it quicker, then that's brilliant. And then you're kind of, that is essentially what I started right at the beginning, that mindset shift. Yeah, it's getting people into that mindset of what AI is and what it can do for you, right? And how it can improve the way you work. And it's not going to take away your job. So I think we're still quite a way from, there are certain industries, I think, obviously a little bit more dodgy than others, but I think there's still a way to go.
Very interesting. You mentioned the consumption model, and how Salesforce didn't necessarily do a great job in communicating about it and creating some uncertainty around. The only certainty that I get is it's expensive, and then from there is like what's happening, right? So that's interestingly, I believe that Salesforce has built its success on results. You and I have been to, and you organize, as well, events, Salesforce events, where the first thing that you hear and that you see is always, happy customers mentioning some form of stats of the results that they're getting. 34% more sales is the good old impact, right? And based on that, then immediately justifies the investment in the technology that they're proposing. So historically, they've been selling like that. I think what you're saying is correct. They've lost a bit that narrative in the ability to ground the success into without talking about the cost. I think they were forced down the road of talking about the cost without being able yet to explain the ROI impact expected, right? So we all know it costs $2 per conversation.
But for some companies, that's cheap, right?
For sure.
I think this is the ultimate thing, right? Is AI in Salesforce isn't about replacing people. It's about empowering them to do more faster and smarter, right? And so if you put that hat on, it's like saying, well, okay, it costs me $7 to push a ticket to third line support. Yeah. So how much deflection am I getting from pushing it to third line using AI am I having, right? And what is the ROI? Have I got a good ROI on that? And so I think that is the kind of stats and trying to really do the working out at the beginning of what good looks like or what success looks like when you're implementing AI, and you do that design up front such that you are ready to implement it into whatever tool you would like. Hopefully, does that answer your question?
Well, absolutely. I think it does, because it's. I think your premise is quite right for someone in your position dealing with data away at the level that you do. But your assumption is that most companies have worked out with that level of detail what is the cost for them to manage different parts of their processes, and therefore they can immediately cross compare what would it cost if I were to do it with. And I think that's where the small steps approach that you mentioned earlier will go a long way, because I start dissecting parts of your process. If you know exactly what that is costing you, then you will be able to see, does it actually make sense for me to replace it with an AI? Will it accelerate my success, my path?
Exactly. And it's kind of it's augmenting those kind of human capabilities to kind of free up the teams to do high value work and do more of that customer relationship building based on that grounded information of knowing, it's a family that needs the house, or whatever it may be, right? Yes. So you can make more meaningful conversations, which will hopefully convert more sales, and away we go, right?
That's absolutely right. So building on that, what's next? What do you see happening, 2025, after, around and after London's calling? So kind of, the second part of 2025,
I think what we're in at the moment, there's been a bit of a, oh my word, it costs lots, we don't really understand it. I think it's that understanding of how AI is going to benefit an organization and where it can benefit. And I think once we've hit that realization, then you'll then have a big disruption happening, I think, within the Salesforce ecosystem. That could be, one of them could be just around the app exchange, right? Where I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago, and literally this app's been around for a very long time, and it's not going to exist, in a couple of years' time, I don't think. Anyway, but it's a very, fundamental app, basic app, right? But it's going to get replaced by an AI agent, right? And I think the ones that are going to be really valuable, that are going to really kind of start pushing, is the ones that are collecting data, right? People will suddenly realize the value of grounding their AI, structured or unstructured, and suddenly realize, hey, there's a lot of unstructured data, more data that we can start getting to really ground them. And actually, a CRM hasn't got great data in it, but we can ground it on lots of other things around the customer. It could be integrations to, I don't know, other data providers to bring it in based on the location of the person or the company information or whatever, to get a much better an AI journey. And so I think there's going to be a bit of flip. Yeah. AI realization, and then going, right, to get real value out of this, we need to get much better grounding on data, both inside and outside of our org. And where that comes from and how that's brought into Salesforce is another thing, right? Maybe it doesn't at all. Maybe you're just doing the actual reality is going to be, you're going to be doing an AI to, agent to agent integration, where you're going to be asking Agentforce to talk to another agent to get the relevant information back, and then bring that into the prompt within Agentforce to then answer the questions. So rather than pulling all the data into data cloud, who knows, right? I think we're still, and this is I think the beauty of it where we are right now is people are just trying to find their feet and working through all these different ways of doing AI, so that we can really kind of learn from each other and find out what the best approach should be based on different scenarios.
Yeah, and to paraphrase what you just said, I think people and companies are getting ready to embrace AI and ultimately bringing it into their reality of mindset, reality of data, as you just were explaining, and reality of governance, and then unleash its power and enjoy the benefits, hopefully. In the short term.
And the future of Salesforce AI are the ones that are going to be ready, right? Where strategy isn't just a roadmap, it's it's that ticket to your success with AI, right? So yeah, I think it's exciting times.
Definitely exciting times. Look, this was incredibly interesting. Thank you for sharing all your knowledge and kind of bringing it down, I think, to very real examples, real tangible, practical examples. Well, I'll see you at London's Calling, I guess. Anything that you want to say to our audience regarding London's Calling, what to expect, what to look for, apart from a Vinton demo jam?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I do love a good demo jam. It's always one of my favorites. But it's our 10th anniversary, so we are having I don't think I should say, there's something happening at the end of the day, which is quite cool.
Okay.
So
I'll stick around.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
It's quite cool. And we're literally maxing out the venue again, even more so than previous years. I think we've got like 8 or 9 tracks of talks this year. I think it is bonkers. But if you do want to, if you haven't got a ticket yet, you can grab one in-person ticket from londonscalling.net, and it's on the 6th of June, hopefully Friday the 6th of June, if I got the date right. And we also will be launching the online tickets as well. So if you're anywhere else in the world and you can't get to be here in person, then you can sign up for a online ticket, which gives you access to all the sessions during the day and the hubbub and voting in the demo jam and all kinds of stuff. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to learning more about AI readiness examples and practical ways of bringing Agentforce, and I guess in general AI and productivity and success into every Salesforce implementation, every business that uses Salesforce, I guess.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
It's gonna be good. Well, thank you very much again. It was a pleasure having you, Francis. Thank you for sharing all your knowledge with us. And I'll see you at the brewery around the corner.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Super. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.